The University of Nebraska at Omaha's scholarship programs, notably the Dreamers Pathway and HDR scholarships, prioritize foreign-born students over American-born students, particularly white Nebraskans. These programs exploit the 14th Amendment's broad clauses to advance subversive priorities. The amendment, ratified under duress in 1868, shapes Nebraska's laws in 2025, intertwining congressional mandates with state legislation to provide resources to undocumented immigrants. This article examines how the University of Nebraska at Omaha justifies its scholarships, the amendment's subversion for fraudulent ends, its impact on Nebraska's legal framework, the history of its coercive ratification, and the interconnectedness of Congress and the Nebraska legislature in providing resources to undocumented immigrants. University of Nebraska at Omaha's Unjust Scholarship Justifications. The University of Nebraska at Omaha defends its Dreamers Pathway and HDR scholarships as mechanisms to enhance educational access for so-called underserved groups, including deferred action for childhood arrivals recipients and minorities. The Dreamers Pathway provided full tuition, fees, and books to DACA-eligible Nebraska residents with a 2.0 GPA, while the HDR scholarship favored so-called underrepresented minorities. Administrators argue these initiatives align with Nebraska's Legislative Bill 239, which allows undocumented students meeting concocted residency criteria, 3 years in Nebraska, high school graduation or GED, and an affidavit to pursue legal residency to access in-state tuition. This law draws on the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, as interpreted in Plyler v. Doe 1982, to ensure equitable access. The university claims these scholarships support Nebraska's economy, as undocumented residents contribute millions in taxes, but also use millions in welfare services annually. This justification masks a fraudulent prioritization of non-citizens, diverting taxpayer funds from Nebraskans. The federal investigation launched on July 23, 2025 for Title VI violations, prompted by the Equal Protection Project's May 14, 2025 complaint, underscores this misuse, with the university's discontinuation of the Dreamers Pathway and adjustments to the HDR scholarship revealing their unjust nature. Chancellor Joanne Lee's leadership, marked by her suspicious past, questionable motives, and subversive affiliations, drives this agenda, betraying American students. Subversion of the 14th Amendment for unscrupulous ends. The 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, stating that no state shall deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws, is subverted to justify policies favoring undocumented immigrants. In Plyler v. Doe, the Supreme Court extended this clause to mandate free K-12 education for undocumented children, enabling entities to advance fraudulent priorities. The University of Nebraska at Omaha uses this interpretation to defend scholarships that prioritize non-citizens, claiming alignment with constitutional equity. This broad application enables resources like in-state tuition and scholarships for undocumented students, diverting funds from American citizens. In Nebraska, Legislative Bill 239 builds on this framework, allowing undocumented students to access benefits intended for residents. Across the United States, public schools and universities exploit the clause to provide educational, healthcare, and welfare resources to undocumented immigrants, undermining citizens' rights. Chancellor Lee's leadership, with her opaque background and unconfirmed citizenship, exemplifies the subversion, using the amendment to justify programs that disadvantage white Nebraskans, reflecting a calculated misuse of constitutional protections for unscrupulous ends. Fraudulent ratification of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, ratified on July 9, 1868, was proposed by the 39th Congress with a 138-36 House vote and a 33-11 Senate vote on June 13, 1866, meeting Article 5's two-thirds requirement. Ratification required 3/4 of state legislatures 28 of 37 states. Southern states, excluded from Congress post-Civil War, faced coercion under the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, which mandated ratification for readmission to the Union. States like Alabama and Georgia ratified under pressure, while Tennessee and Connecticut acted early. Secretary of State William Seward certified the amendment, with Congress affirming its validity despite rescission attempts by Ohio and New Jersey. This coercive process renders the amendment fraudulent, as Southern states were compelled to comply. Constitutional amendments require a 2/3 congressional vote and 3/4 state ratification by simple majority, with the archivist certifying adoption. The 14th Amendment's forced ratification in 1868, driven by Northern dominance, enables its broad clauses to be exploited, shaping laws like Legislative Bill 239 that favor non-citizens over American students in Nebraska. Impact on Nebraska laws in 2025. In 2025, the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, via Plyler v. Doe, mandates free K-12 education for undocumented students, shaping Nebraska's Legislative Bill 239, which grants in-state tuition to those meeting residency criteria. This law enables scholarships like the Dreamer's Pathway, prioritizing non-citizens, prompting a Title VI investigation. Nebraska's compliance with Plyler strains public schools with overcrowding and diverts college admissions from citizens. Programs like the Nebraska Opportunity Grant and Access College Early Scholarship support undocumented students, leveraging Legislative Bill 239. The amendment's influence drives Nebraska's laws, allocating resources to non-citizens, with Lee's leadership amplifying this betrayal. Congressional and Nebraska legislative interconnectedness. Congress's enforcement power under the 14th Amendment's Section 5 enables federal laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, underpinning Title VI investigations into the University of Nebraska at Omaha scholarships. Federal funding, tied to Plyler compliance, compels Nebraska to admit undocumented students, influencing Legislative Bill 239's passage in 2006 by a 29-16 vote, led by Senator Ron Rakes. Resources like the Nebraska Educational Savings Trust and DACA support programs stem from this federal-state dynamic, providing educational benefits to undocumented students. This interconnectedness, driven by a fraudulently ratified amendment, enables a system where Nebraska's legislature prioritizes non-citizens, with Lee's questionable background and leadership perpetuating this misuse, undermining American students' rights. Conclusion: the 14th Amendment subversion and the urgent need for reform in Nebraska's education system. The University of Nebraska at Omaha's Unjust scholarship programs, specifically the Dreamer's Pathway and HDR scholarships, exploit the 14th Amendment's subverted Equal Protection Clause to prioritize foreign-born students, particularly deferred action for childhood arrivals recipients and minorities, over American-born students, especially white Nebraskans, in a manner that betrays the state's citizens. Rooted in the amendment's fraudulent ratification under coercive Reconstruction Acts in 1868, this constitutional provision has been twisted to justify policies that undermine the rights of American students, shaping Nebraska's educational landscape in 2025 to favor non-citizens at the expense of taxpayer resources. Congressional mandates, intertwined with the Nebraska legislature's compliance, create a web of benefits for undocumented students, perpetuating a crisis that demands systemic reform. The 14th Amendment, ratified on July 9, 1868, was intended to secure citizenship and equal protection for formerly enslaved individuals. But its coercive passage under the Reconstruction Acts of 1867, forcing Southern states to ratify for readmission to the Union, renders it a tainted foundation for modern policies. Its Equal Protection Clause, interpreted in Plyler v. Doe, 1982, to mandate free K-12 education for undocumented children, has been stretched to justify Nebraska's Legislative Bill 239, which grants in-state tuition to qualifying undocumented students. This law enables scholarships like the Dreamers Pathway, discontinued in 2025 amid a federal Title VI investigation launched on July 23, 2025, for discriminating against American students. The amendment's broad language, originally meant to protect emancipated slaves, now serves as a tool for institutions like the University of Nebraska at Omaha to divert resources from white Nebraskans who face reduced educational opportunities as non-citizens compete for admissions and financial aid. Reform is imperative to dismantle this system. Terminating discriminatory scholarships, amending Legislative Bill 239 to restrict benefits to U.S. citizens, and mandating financial audits are critical steps. Verifying leadership backgrounds, particularly Lee's unconfirmed citizenship and undocumented past, is essential to ensure accountability. Prioritizing American students in admissions and capping non-citizen enrollment in schools will restore resources to Nebraskans and other citizens. The 14th Amendment's fraudulent legacy, coupled with Lee's opaque leadership, demands a reckoning to preserve Nebraska's educational integrity and prioritize its citizens, ending the misuse of constitutional protections for non-citizens.